And you know what the hell going on around here, man? It's your boy, WTS Sporty, and I'm back with another one, man. Before we continue, make sure you subscribe to my channel, like this video, and click the notification bell so you know when I drop more videos like this, man. But look, hey, what we gonna react to is 15 things SeaWorld does not want you to know, bro. Look, man, we about to get into that right now. Way too sporty, what you talking about? POV, a nigga dropping, nigga popping out. Way too turn so you can cut it out. Bust the ugly thing on you, have you running out. Way too fresh, your favorite YouTuber. Nigga way too cold, I don't do bloopers. Stay 10 toes down, I don't do troop. Word. All right, y'all ready? Hey, yo. Let's test this thing.
15 things SeaWorld doesn't want you to know. Number 15. Dorsal fins. One of the first things people began to question about SeaWorld was the truth about killer whales with collapsed dorsal fins. Clearly, this was something that did not happen in the wild, so what did it mean when this occurred in captive killer whales? The dorsal fin on a large male killer whale can grow up to 6 feet in height and is a vital appendage for navigating the oceans, but in captivity it is common for it to flop down to one side.
Wow.
SeaWorld claims this is natural and often occurs in the wild, but studies show this is simply not true. If it does occur in the wild, it almost always is a sign of poor health or other trauma. The fin is made of collagen, like a human ear, and under normal circumstances is underwater with pressure as the whales swim fast and dive deep. But just floating around in a pool lowers this pressure and causes tissue damage, and it particularly affects males for some reason. Here's the most important point. When whales with collapsed fins are put back into the wild, their fins stand up again. The stress of captivity and lack of proper exercise is clearly bad for any living thing. Breeding. Killer whales in captivity don't breed well, and since the capture of wild killer whales was outlawed in 1972, SeaWorld has been forced to resort to artificial insemination to ensure they have more whales in the future. Trainers train male whales to flip onto their backs and present their genitals, and the trainer then has to manually extract semen and catch it in a container. This is then inserted into a female whale in the hope of pregnancy. In their rush to get new whales born, they inseminate females far too young.
That's
crazy,
crazy,
little like humans, a killer whale female is physically capable of healthy pregnancy at between 14 to 16 years old. But in SeaWorld, the females are expected to give birth aged 8 to 10, which often results in stillbirths. In fact, almost all killer whale births are stillborn. Also, they then separate mother and calf at an early age, which is highly traumatic for both. Killer whales are the only species to have more advanced brain structures than humans in the areas which control empathy and emotional response, and so likely suffer even more than we would at such a separation. They are known to cry in emotional pain and suffer from depression. Number 13. Kidnapping. In spite of the ban on capture, 5 of the whales at the park were kidnapped from the wild. Back in 1970, a team of boats and airplanes set out on the Puget Sound with the intention of capturing killer whale calves for the entertainment industry. Boats aimed to herd the whales into a cove where they would be trapped. Chasing, the humans were fooled by the whale pod, who had been through this kind of thing before. They knew their young were in danger, so somehow they were able to communicate amongst themselves that the males would continue up into the cove, with the humans following, while discreetly the females and their calves would slip down a different way. However, the airplane above was too much of an advantage and was able to communicate to the boats that they needed to change course, and so many whales were caught that day and taken from their parents. When this was banned in the US, SeaWorld just kept moving to new territories, such as Iceland, which had not banned it yet, collecting more and more whales for display, in spite of their own government outlawing capture. Number 12. Drugs. Thawed-out dead fish is far from the healthy and varied diet these
America trying to put everybody on drugs, huh, man. Even Shamu and them was just loaded. You know what I'm saying? Doing them big ass fancy, you know what I'm saying, extravagant ass backflips and slides on the belly and shit. Them motherfuckers was high. That's why they were doing all that wild ass shit. Sorry, I had something in my mouth. But yeah, man, that's why they doing all that wild ass shit. Niggas was stoned, bro. All them killer whales, man. All them killer whales, man, lit on drugs. You know what I'm talking about? Damn, crazy. Let's keep rolling though.
Massive bodies would expect to enjoy in the wild. Weighing up to 6 tons and measuring as much as 32 feet, a killer whale's diet is extremely important, and the fresher, the better. In the wild, they would eat fish, penguins, and marine mammals such as seals, sea lions, and even whales. However, their unhealthy and unfresh diet is often mixed with a cocktail of drugs, which can include benzodiazepines, antipsychotics, and at times, contraceptives. These help to keep the whales docile, since captive whales often display signs of aggression and mental illness. Just like in humans, these kinds of drugs are best served as a last resort, as the effects on the body can be highly damaging, and the small moderations in behavior they make are not beneficial to the whales in the long run in any way. Number 11. Trainers. The trainers at SeaWorld are often presented as being expert marine biologists, but this is not always the case. In fact, most of the trainers at SeaWorld are simply performers who have learned how to interact with the animals in shows, but do not necessarily have any expertise. That does not mean to say that the trainers aren't competent, but they are being presented as having knowledge about the animals that maybe doesn't exist among humans yet. No trainer can ever be sure of how a killer whale is going to behave and react. One of the most experienced trainers in SeaWorld history, John Hargrove, has become an outspoken critic of SeaWorld and wants to see these animals left in their natural environment, in spite of the magical experiences he has had with them.
Nigga, walrus fart. That's
he acknowledges times
shit.
when his life was in danger, when the whale's moods can change, when something just isn't right. They are professionals, but they are not magicians. In the water, it is the killer whale who is in charge.
That shit is smooth.
Number 10. Animal care. In spite of many protestations to the contrary by SeaWorld, an investigation by the United States Department of Agriculture, which is the federal executive department dealing with animal welfare, among other things, conducted an investigation into the conditions at SeaWorld San Diego after a child was bitten by a dolphin.
SeaWorld says that Katina, the killer whale, was injured here at SeaWorld about 2 weeks ago while...
In 2013, the investigation concluded, and the marine park was cited for multiple violations of the Animal Welfare Act. Some of those violations were serious, including the use of surgical instruments, which were more than 10 years past their expiry date. The USDA report also documented the degraded state of the dolphin tanks, which were cracked and had rusty beams held up with crumbling concrete, all of which were considered dangerous to both animals and the workers alike. It is argued that allowing young children to hand-feed dolphins is dangerous, given that captive dolphins can sometimes be aggressive due to their unhappy living conditions, and several injuries to both children and dolphins seem to confirm this. And not only have animals been injured at SeaWorld, but many have died prematurely due to accidents and injuries, which might have been avoided with better care. Number 9. Chemicals. As you might imagine, the tiny pools at SeaWorld do not have the self-cleaning mechanism of an entire ocean, and visitors would of course expect an absolutely sparkling clean experience for their money. This means some serious scrubbing duties by the trainers, who must clean out the tanks and other areas with a whole range of chemicals. These chemicals are not part of the animal's natural environment, and so can have many negative effects, as seen in the common cases of blindness in sea lions and walruses at the parks. This toxic effect is no less on humans, and the trainers have reported many skin conditions caused by the large amounts of chlorine poured into the pools. The killer whales usually have constant streams of mucus pouring from their eyes, which is a protective mechanism, but not something which should be on at all times. Trainers too had cases of serious eye burn from the chlorine, which left them unable to open their eyes after swimming. There are many theories about what causes eye damage in killer whales, from increased exposure to the sun, the UV-friendly blue color of the pool walls, to lack of dark depths to work in. But no doubt, huge doses of chlorine are not good for the whales. Number 8. Behavioral problems. According to SeaWorld's corporate incident reporting, there have been more than 200 incidents of trainer injury caused by killer whales, with a range of severity, including death of a trainer. But aggression is only one of the behavioral problems that captive killer whales display. Some of their other behavior is self-destructive and self-harming, and they will make themselves bleed by gnawing on solid objects like walls or gates. At other times, the animals seem to just float listlessly in the pools, with nothing better to do, while in the wild, they would be consistently engaged in hunting and social interactions with their pod. The whales also fight one another and can inflict quite serious injuries. These problems seem to be a sign of mental illness, which, coupled with the physical decline suffered by the whales, often leads to early death. In 2019, Kayla, a killer whale at SeaWorld Orlando, died. She was the oldest captive-born whale in history and passed away at age 30. In the wild, however, killer whales can live to 80 years, with the average age being 50 to 60. Number 7. Hunger. One of the primary methods of training whales at SeaWorld is using food to reward them when they do what they're asked. But the inverse method is also used, where the whales are starved if they do not do what they are asked to do. This negative reinforcement is a method of training which is considered unethical in pretty much all forms of animal training, and yet SeaWorld will punish the whales with starvation if they do not perform tricks which are often painful. For a whale to launch itself onto a solid platform, it will need to know the consequences of failing to do so and that they'll be unpleasant. So it goes through with the trick, even though that massive body, designed to be held together in water, will experience huge pressure on its organs when it is placed against a hard surface on land. This is no doubt at least uncomfortable for the killer whales, if not outright painful. But if they do not do it, they know they will suffer the pain of hunger instead. Number 6. Overwork. Speaking of performing tricks, there are not really the same kinds of labor laws for whales as you might expect for humans. And this means that often these animals are expected to work tirelessly for profit, with little rest or time away from the stress of performing. One killer whale named Kasatka was captured at the Ago of One and taken to SeaWorld, where she lived for 40 years. And during that time, she performed 8 shows a day for 40 years. The only break Kasatka was ever given was to be transferred by road to other parks for breeding, after which her babies would be immediately taken from her, and while her maternal hormones were still overwhelming, she would be sent right back to her grueling schedule of work. This whale was known as the matriarch of the SeaWorld whales, but also considered one of the most dangerous whales to work with, no doubt unpredictable after her many years of pain. Having suffered a lung disease for many years, she was euthanized at the age of 42 in 2017, just after Tilikum, one of the most famous and notorious killer whales, also died of a lung disease, aged 33 years after being captured near Iceland. Number 5. Sunburn. Killer whales, or orca as they are sometimes known, are used to living in cold seas and spending a great deal of time deep underwater. In spite of their dark patches of skin, they can still be prone to sunburn. This is not helped by the fact that SeaWorld's 3 parks, which house killer whales, are in the extremely sunny environments of Orlando, San Antonio, and San Diego. On top of this, the shallow pools mean that there is really nowhere to hide from that hot sun. When the animals burn, just like people, it can cause the skin to become raw and disfigured. This is yet another aspect of SeaWorld's operations that they do all they can to cover up from the public.
So the whales out there getting sunburned and shit because they out there in the sun. They don't got nowhere to hide. It's crazy.
Who would no doubt be asking questions if they saw the whale's skin was burned and discolored. So they cover the burned whales with black zinc oxide, which works as a form of water-resistant makeup to keep visitors in the illusion that there is nothing wrong with these captive animals. Number 4. FedEx. SeaWorld doesn't reserve its mistreatment of animals only for orcas, however. It has done plenty of things to some of its other residents that make you wonder how it could possibly be legal. How about mailing 20 penguins across country by FedEx? FedEx, who are not exactly geniuses when it comes to competent delivery of regular mail, were entrusted with a plastic 4x4 crate.
You know, we all got some fucked up FedEx deliveries, man, packages just thrown on the motherfucking yard, thrown on the porch, shoved in the auxiliary large parcel mail slot. Crazy, man. But let's go.
Full of live penguins, who were forced to stand in the same position for 13 hours with a few air holes punched into the crate and a block of ice at the bottom to keep them cool.
That shit sound crazy,
Unlike most animal transport operations, the FedEx penguins were not sedated, with SeaWorld figuring they'd be fine without them. SeaWorld has transported penguins for publicity stunts to a variety of places, including the New York Stock Exchange, where they are forced to parade in front of huge crowds and bright flashing lights. Finally, the penguin enclosure is often filled with coins thrown by visitors, and even things like shoes, and the penguins instinctively try to eat shiny things, mistaking them for fish scales, which can be very damaging to their health. Number 3. Dentistry. As we mentioned earlier, one of the most visible behaviors by unhappy killer whales is to gnaw and chew solid.
Yo, cause killer whales got teeth, bro. Like, no doubt. So the fact that those is like missing teeth, they just like circular gaps, bro, just sitting there like root canals. Like they just pulled all the teeth out, bro. Look at that shit. Like, no fucking teeth. There's no teeth there. I wonder if that shit for their protection so they won't get gnawed to fucking have, bro. These motherfuckers ain't no joke. These are the whales, the great white shark. It's nothing compared to this killer whale, bro. And it's probably where police got their paint scheme idea from, bro. You know what I'm saying? The biggest dog in the water type shit. Yeah, let's keep rolling.
Objects in frustration and boredom. A major peer-reviewed study into dental health of captive orcas revealed that their teeth were often in terrible condition. As most people know, the health of your teeth can have powerful consequences for the health of many other things in your body, from bones to organs. 45% of the captive whales had moderate wear to their teeth, while 24% had wear described as extreme. 61% of the whales had been given some kind of dental surgery in which their teeth are drilled by trainers and the pulpy inner material removed.
So they drill their teeth. They pull them off. Fuck. Damn, bro.
In an attempt to avoid abscesses, which are usually fatal in killer whales. Unlike a human root canal drilling, an orca tooth cannot be filled and capped, and so they must be flushed out daily with chemicals to prevent infection, a process which weakens the teeth further and contributes to wear. It is suspected that Tilikum and Kasatka died from antibiotic-resistant lung infections, brought on by the need for daily medication for their teeth. Number 2.
Crazy.
Feeding. Feeding time at SeaWorld is what most people want to see, but perhaps it is ironic that the most
Hey, that shit sound like the most dangerous motherfucking time too, because some of these animals don't know how to act. They be hungry as fuck. It sound like they be starving them until they get the trick right and shit. And so you go out there with a bucket of fish. I'm pretty sure sometimes these niggas get jumped out here, fool. Let's check it out.
Notorious incidents in the park's history occurred during human feeding time. Dawn Brasheau was a senior animal trainer at SeaWorld Orlando and the poster girl for the operation. On February 24th, 2010, she performed with the killer whale, Tilikum, in the Dine with Shamu show. SeaWorld maintains the name Shamu for its performances, even though the whales change over time.
I think the reason why they didn't put the clip in on this video is because it was probably like too graphic, you know what I'm saying? Because what they talking about does not coincide with the video that we looking at. So I just want to let you know that I'm also aware of it, you feel me? But I think that shit might have been a little too graphic, because what, you know, the narrator is explaining is a horrific time where some trainer got just fucked up by one of these fucking whales or something like that, you feel me? So, yeah, let's keep trucking.
Show goes on while guests enjoy a restaurant meal in view of the performance. At the end of the show, this experienced trainer was stroking Tilikum's head while lying on the platform, when suddenly the whale grabbed her by either the arm or the hair, with reports varying. Tilikum dragged Dawn down to the bottom of the pool and drowned her while also inflicting devastating injuries to her body, which he held on to for 45 minutes before releasing it. This was a terrible tragedy, but it's hard not to speculate that this aggression by Tilikum was not just random, but in some way a brutal and desperate way of expressing her unhappiness. Not with her trainer, but with her captivity. Number 1. Large whale, small tank.
Look at that thing, it's limp,
It would
man.
be impossible to just
boy.
turn all these whales out into the wild.
Look at that shit. So when you go to, you know what I'm saying, when you see a whale and its top fin is like that, that means it ain't healthy, bro. It ain't happy. We got the little limp fin, man. Need some Viagra for that motherfucker. Dead ass. No capping. All that shit. It's wrong. Yeah, we're gonna keep pushing though. I just want y'all to just like, you know, just see that shit. And I want to get a little thumbnail opportunity, like, I might put a big tear right here. I'm just playing. Let's go.
Captive and captive-born killer whales would simply die in the wild, no matter what the movies say. But marine reserves, which give them the freedom of the ocean, but within some bounds, would be far better for these whales than the conditions they are kept in. SeaWorld may be the most famous corporation holding captive killer whales, but they are not the only ones. There are 13 parks in the world with captive whales. In the US, Canada, Argentina, Japan, China, Russia, France, and Spain. One of the saddest stories is of Lolita, a killer whale who has lived alone for 40 years at the Miami Seaquarium. In 1970, she arrived at the park with a male named Hugo, but in 1980, Hugo committed suicide by continually ramming its head into the wall of the tank until he died. Since then, Lolita's life has consisted of her daily performances, and the rest of the time she floats motionless in her tiny pool, waiting for the next performance, and therefore next mealtime to start. Even famed...
Yo, that's pretty sad, bro. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know that about SeaWorld, but you know, I'm gonna keep it clean, you know, along with all of the great animals, you know, Siegfried and Roy and all that shit. Anybody that's been training animals and that has some, you know, degree of abuse to it, some degree of pain or starving or suffering, some type of sacrifice that has to be, you know what I'm saying, committed towards these animals to get them to do what they are told and what they are expected to do. You know what I'm saying? That shit crazy though. But look, man, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel, like this video, click the notification bell so you know when I rock these videos, bro. If you video without me in it, the link is in the description below. If you want to watch it with your boy, roll it back. Ain't no deal. But look, man, I'm gonna get up out your hair, do something else. Make sure you give Stress the wrong address. I'm way too sporty. I'm out this thing. Peace. Way too sporty, what you talking about? POV, a nigga dropping, nigga popping out. Way too turn so you can cut it out. Bust the ugly thing on you, have you running out. Way too fresh, your favorite YouTuber. Nigga way too cold, I don't do bloopers. Stay 10 toes down, I don't do troopers.